Okay. Welcome.
You're so
Episode.
glum.
I'm what? I'm glum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta do this podcast. All right, I guess I'll do one.
Guess
It's
I'll
only our
do one.
10th one or 11th one, but I guess I'll keep going. I'm
Oh,
sorry, Carson, that I didn't live up to your joyous life expectations of me.
yeah. I want you to be chipper.
Chipper. Um, well, okay, I'll turn over a new leaf. Here's a new chipper me. Welcome, everyone. Episode 8.1 of It's Not a Meisner podcast. I am Chipper Kevin, and who are you?
I'm Chipper Carson.
Oh, we're
Maybe
both
I should
Chipper.
be. Maybe I should be Glum Carson. We'll
You
trade
be
off.
glum, and I'll be Chipper.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So, hey, Carson, what what's your favorite scene in Glengarry Glen Ross, the movie?
The movie.
Yeah,
I think because the movie, it has to be the always be closing
yeah.
with Alec Baldwin, but it's also because that's not in the play.
It's not in the play. Is that
Yeah.
amazing?
But I also,
Always be.
all the lemon scenes are just
Oh
perfect.
my God. How when he goes, Wilkinson, you are an asshole. It's so good. But the reason I ask is because of that ABC that you just said.
Yeah.
The Alec Baldwin's character has a chalkboard or a whiteboard or something,
Yeah.
and he puts ABC on it, and then he says A always B C closing, always be closing.
Yeah.
Right. For our episode today, we have our own version of that. We skip the C and we go ABD. Always be doing. Always be doing. You're never not doing on stage, right? So sometimes with my students, I'll say, remember your ABDs when you're a kid, right? You go, what are the ABCs? We're like, no, it's the ABD. Always be doing. Um, and why is that important? Because people who don't understand Meisner, or people who misunderstand Meisner, even some people who practice or even teach Meisner, they tend to think that it's an emotion based acting technique, that it leads with emotion,
Mm.
but it doesn't. It doesn't. It focuses on action, and in the case of today's episode, activity.
Yeah. I would go a step
So
further and say that most people think that about acting in general.
that it's emotion based.
Yeah.
I think you're right. But if you look at most acting techniques, they focus on doing.
Hmm.
All right. So today's episode, we're going to focus on doing in general, but in the Meisner technique, specifically the activity. It should not be acting training, it should be actor
Am I a
training.
good actor?
Like me doing. It's not a Meisner podcast. Okay. So before we talk about activity, though, I want to address something I've threatened to do over multiple episodes. I warned you that we were going to talk about talent, right? It's come up a few times, and I'm like, we'll talk about talent. We'll talk about it down the line. Well, we're here. Um, we can't really talk about Meisner's dictum, the reality of doing, right? So again, how the hell do people think that Meisner is an emotion-based technique when he said the most important aspect to remember about acting is the reality of doing, not feeling. Okay. So talent is something that you either have or you don't. You can't control it. And that's why I want to talk about it. You can't ride your talent if you have it. I don't want actors showing up going, "Well, I'm very talented, and I'll just ride my talent and I'll take my chances." And and like, if you're not trained, what are you doing? Like, hoping for that hand of God to touch you before you go out on stage? You're hoping for some sort of divine inspiration. Every night you hear your cue and you go, "I hope the hand of God touches me when I go out and say my first line." No, man, you have to be trained. So you can't rely on talent. Um, you, you, um, there are disagreements about whether or not there's even such a thing as talent. Like, some people go, "There's no such thing." Anybody could be an actor. Anybody can learn to act. Doesn't matter about talent. And some people will say, "Well, there is such a thing as talent, but there are degrees to
Mm,
talent. Like, how
absolutely.
talented are you?" You know.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you think?
I think everybody everybody at some point in their life had what it takes to be a great actor. And it's when you were 3 or 4 years old. At 3 or 4 years old, you did nothing but let the environment happen to you.
Right.
And you would happen to the environment, you know? So it means everybody has talent. It's that they lost it, right? So it's not like, "Hey, can I gain talent?" You already had it once and you lost it.
Yeah.
Viola Spolin says that there is such a thing as talent, and her definition of it is the individual's capacity to penetrate the sensual world and to let the sensual world penetrate them. Your ability to touch velvet and then touch sandpaper and really let the difference, to smell something, to see something, to taste something. Every child, if you put some food in their mouth that they don't like, they go, "Ah," they spit it, or they're really alive with the sensual experience, right? But also this notion of not only you penetrating the sensual world, but letting it penetrate you.
Right.
So you mentioned once about Neil deGrasse Tyson. You jump in a puddle and the mud goes flying. You children can't stop. They go, I have to let that thing happen to me. I want mud to splash all over me.
Yeah.
I want, when you're a kid, I don't think you're conscious of it, but you kind of want almost even to be hurt. And I mean physically. I mean, to have your feelings hurt. Like, if another kid is mean to you or something, I don't think you know it. You cry or whatever. Well, in a way, you're testing the range of your capacity for experience. You could have a little crush on somebody, you could get hurt by somebody, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think there is such a thing as talent, and I think what that is your capacity to experience.
Yeah.
So then you go, "Well, why are some people more talented than others?" Well, some people never lost that,
Yeah.
or they lost it and then regained it. Um,
Well, it goes back to Declan Donnellan, like unblocked or blocked. And
oh
how
yeah,
unblocked are you?
how
An
blocked
actor
are
or a
you and how
person.
unblocked?
Yeah.
Yeah, and can you recognize the block?
Right.
And by the way, that's why we need directors, in my opinion.
Yeah.
People go, "Why do actors need directors?" Because they can see that you're blocked and where you're blocked and how you blocked and why you're blocked, and their
Yeah.
job is to help you to put a crowbar in there and just sort of
Yeah.
pop that open.
There's a
You have
funny
coaches
video.
too. No, go ahead.
No, just going back to what you're talking about children. There's a really funny video. This is not about children, but about animals, where they ask Marlon Brando, "Have you seen this?"
No.
And they asked him, he's really old at this point, it's probably in the 90s. And they're like, "How does it feel to be regarded as the greatest actor of your generation?" He's like, "I don't really like to think in terms of great and bad. It's so Western. The greatest actor of our generation is that dog over there.
You
Because
know.
that dog will do whatever it takes to get food. And when it's done, he doesn't love me anymore."
Ah!
But it speaks to what you're talking about. It's like
Oh,
they're just responding for what they need and in the moment and doing whatever it takes, and then they drop it and move on. You know?
by the way, when Brando said that, he proved why he's a great actor.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that was a great actor, ex- um, uh, a discovery. The best actor is that dog over there. You know what? It also has always um, been a, a to me a curious thing. They There's an old adage: never work with dogs and children.
Yeah.
When you're an actor, don't work with animals and children. And when you go, why not? They go, because they're unpredictable. And I go, what? Every actor should be unpredictable. You want to be.
Yeah.
Not only do you want to work with the child or the animal because they're unpredictable, it gives you something to respond to, keeps you present, but you want to be that animal or that child. You want to be the unpredictable actor up there.
Denzel.
Unpredictable in a good way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Denzel Washington says, and I think he meant it fully, actually. It could have been interpreted as cheeky, but I think he said it dead serious, that the best actor he ever worked with was Dakota Fanning in Man on Fire. I believe that. I believe that. Yeah, yeah.
I don't think he's being cheeky. No, that's you look at an actor like that, it just channels through them, and you go, how the hell are they doing this, right?
Yeah.
You and I talked about that kid in what's that show that just came out in the one take? It's all in one.
Adolescence on Netflix.
Adolescence. Yeah. What's up with that kid? I turned to my wife and I said, "Did this kid fall from Mars? Did he just fall out of the sky? This kid?" Because not only is he deeply present, listening, living through things, but it's all in one take. It's not like, well, we'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
No, that's all one take. And he's I think, an untrained actor. Well, then that's it's instinct.
Yeah.
So why are we having this conversation about talent? Because you can't rely on it. And also, you shouldn't take credit for it. I always hated my students sometimes would push back. Like, before I came here, I was told I'm very talented. I'm like, shit,
Yeah.
I remember years ago, a kid said to me, before I came here, I was a professional actor. I did 20 commercials, right? And I said to him, I know a dog who was in a commercial. And he was really good too. He ate all the food. He looked like he loved the dog food. What are you talking about? So I would always say to them, you can't claim credit for your talent. It's God-given, if you believe in God, right? So you know what we mean. It's organic. It's natural. You're born with it or you're not. So whenever somebody would say to me, I'm a very talented actor, I'd be like, well, you see that guy over there? He runs really fast. That's his talent. So,
Yeah.
So what I would say is you can't claim ownership. You're not the owner of your talent. But you are the manager of your talent.
Yeah.
Right. So I would always say, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
That brings us to our topic for today, which is activity and action. The Meisner technique, as all of you know who are listening and sometimes watching us on YouTube, begins with the repetition exercise. And I think because it begins there and you stay on it a little bit, and because it's so profound and people who do it, if they really do it well, it does affect you and it changes you as an actor. I think people then tend to put a big gold star on it and be like, repetition, and that's it, right? But you and I were talking just before we started recording, and you said when you look back at your 2 years, you mostly remember activities.
Absolutely. That was every day for a year and a half nearly. Yeah.
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 So repetition, the only reason to do repetition, to start there, is to emphasize the importance of what we call an acting object, that there's always something on the other end of the energy you're sending out and taking back in. I've said this previously. Meisner said acting does not take place in a vacuum. There's something opposite you. Repetition's important because that thing that's opposite you, for the most part, it's your partner. And, Bill Esper used to just bang it home with us. everything you do on stage is to, for, and off your part, right? Now, what's funny about that is people go, yeah, well, what about a monologue? Like, what about when you're alone? You don't have an acting partner. I'm like, no, you do. Even if you're alone and you're talking out loud, there's an imaginary acting partner. You have to give yourself a a sort of stand-in for who you would be saying this to,
Yeah.
and how they are affecting you. You're not talking to talk. You're talking because somebody's on the other end of you and you want to get something from them, right?
It's like that kind of stereotypical joke or what. It's that, you 4 days after you had an argument or a disagreement, you're like, oh, that's what I should have said. That's the thing. But that's because you're imagining the partner. You're imagining.
Yes, you're having an argument with them 4 days after the argument, but in that version, you're saying the stuff that you should have said or whatever.
Yeah.
No, that's totally true. I often think about not monologues, they call them soliloquies when it's in Shakespeare, right? Monologue. Soliloquy. How often does Shakespeare have characters alone on stage talking out loud?
All the time.
And you go, well, who are they talking to? Well, in that day, the audience.
Yeah.
Because it was during the day, there were no lights. So the plays were during the day, and you could see the audience, and they were sort of part of it. I think about Hamlet. When Hamlet has the scene, a very long scene with the actors who show up, the players, big long scene, great scene. They all leave. He literally says out loud, "Now I am alone."
Yeah.
He says it out loud. And then he goes, "Oh, what a rogue and peasant." You go, dude, you just said you're alone. Who are you talking? You just started talking after you said no one's here anymore.
Yeah.
Back then, it would have been the audience. It would have been like, now I am alone, except for you hundreds of people who are here with me on my journey with me, So why start with the repetition? Just to establish who, for, and off. But this is really important. Do you remember that one day you and I should do that, Martha Graham? Martha Graham wrote that letter to Agnes de Mille.
Yeah.
We should take that one apart. Someday we'll have an episode where most of you actors out there know what we're talking about. She writes something to Agnes de Mille. I'm going to paraphrase this, I think. She says, there is a vitality in you, a quickening. I love that. A quickening, an energy, a life force. Those are 4 or 5 really important things that she says that you have in you. But then she says in the same sentence that translates through you into action.
Yeah.
Right? So that's important.
Absolutely.
Here's another thing I've often thought about. Actors who have ever worked on set, whether it's a commercial or a television show or movie, you will hear this before the scene. They go rolling. That means the camera's rolling. And then somebody yells speed. That means the sound is recording. Then the director yells and action, right? So you hear rolling, speed, action. You don't hear rolling, speed, feel. The director's not commanding the actor. And commence with the feeling of the emotions. Go. No, they say action, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think they call it action? They're saying now's the time to do something. Be engaged. Say it again.
It's actor, not feeler.
That's right. It's in the name.
It's I don't know who said this. You'd probably know, but it's I learned it in first year acting class, and it's emotion is to the actor what sweat is to the runner. Like you run to get somewhere, you don't run to sweat.
That's really good. That's really good. I never heard that. That's really good.
Then
it's a byproduct.
Yeah. Then I should say it's from Karen Chamberlain.
Karen Chamberlain. So. We're gonna have her come on someday.
Yeah.
Great acting teacher. She teaches at Bill Esford's studio, and she taught Carson at NYU in their Meisner program. But yeah, that's a great way of looking at it.
Mhm.
You and I have said in recent episode that emotion in and of itself is not acting.
Right.
That we downplay emotion. And anybody who thinks that Meisner's, what happens is if you hear repetition, you go, oh, that's the one where everybody yells and screams and cries and spit is flying all over. Like, no. Repetition is the one that unfolds in perfect adjustment from unanticipated moment to unanticipated moment. That's what repetition is. It seems emotional, but it's not. Listen, hey, by the way, the reality of doing, listening and responding are both doing. That's a do. Listening's a doing. You're doing something up there. Okay. The byproduct may or may not be emotion. We are way more interested in experience. Are you having an experience? The result, what we're really looking for is behavior, right? Maggie used to say to us, you have one job and one job only. There's only, you get hired to do one thing only, create behavior. That's your job. But why is that important? Because when you create behavior in rehearsal, the director can take that behavior and shape it. And the result of that is a production that you then do in front of an audience, right? So this brings us to a really important Stanislavski quote. Stanislavski said, the source of an actor's creativity is the object upon which they concentrate, right? The source of an actor's creativity, I've also seen it translated as inner life. The source of an actor's inner life is the object upon which they concentrate, right? Now, for those young people listening, that's an old timey way of talking, right? No one talks like that anymore. Upon which, So when we hear a sentence like that, we invert it.
Mm-hmm.
And we would say, the object that you're concentrating on, that is the source of your inner life.
Mm.
So it goes along with this statement. You don't go on stage to be emotional. You go on stage to do something, right? So it's an important discovery to say, oh, I don't have to be concerned. I don't have to put pressure on myself to be emotional or to feel emotional, or worse, to demonstrate emotion. No, you go on stage to complete an activity, the doing of which will connect you to your internal life, right? There are plenty of acting techniques that focus on that. Meisner's actually one of them, but practical aesthetics, which David Mamet and his students created, a friend of mine, Paul Ursioli, who teaches, I want to say at USC, great actor, great teacher. He studied practical aesthetics, and he's quite good. And they really do believe in doing.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And
Go ahead.
no, and William H. Macy too, right?
Oh my God, Bill Macy and Joe Montana, and these great actors. They focus on doing. They have the Atlantic Theater in New York. Great company. Michael Chekhov, who you and I have talked about, will have concepts like psychological gesture, that you can do something externally and it will feed back to you internally. Joe Chaikin, who I worked with, was a proponent. You just do, and the doing of it, your body thinks that you're feeling the thing that it does when it feels that.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like you feel something because you feel that your body does a thing. But what if you do the thing? It might work in reverse. Your internal thinks it's feeling the thing because the external body is doing the thing. Right?
Yeah. It's the idea of, and there's a book on it. The book goes into so much more, but like the body keeps a score. Like the memory of it. Like if you fake crying, eventually your body's gonna be, oh, we're crying now. All right, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, the other surprising thing is the later Stanislavski theories. He kind of gave up his earlier work, his earlier theories, and he created what came to be called the psychophysical.
Mm.
Like he recognized the connection between the actor's mind and their body. And so I'm no expert on this, so I'm not going to talk on it. But my understanding is that he was much, much, much more focused on physical doing, of the actor physically doing. Um, I'm not going to name any techniques, but there are techniques that their foundation is in that early Stanislavski work, which he himself rethought. Did he disavow it? He rethought it. He is quoted as saying for 10 years or whatever, he was developing his system of emotional recall and all that kind of stuff, sense memory and everything, which has its place. I mean, there are some great actors who use it. But he said, I think I've created a generation of neurotic actors. Like he looked at his own actors and he was like, uh-oh, they're pretty damn internal, and sort of they go on stage and they just feel their own thing. But what about the person that's with them?
Mm.
Um, so eventually he kind of came around a little bit more to the way Michael Chekhov worked, which was uh, how the body and the mind and the internal and the soul, for lack of a better word, the soul, the spirit are connected. Now, this will also surprise you all. Meisner himself invented his activity, which asks the actor to sit down, perhaps. You could do a standing activity, but for the most part, you're sitting. My teacher, Maggie, used to say, who's at the table? Meaning we kind of knew that the activity was you were sitting at the table. Who's at the door and who's at the table? Now, the truth is, an activity can be done standing up, but mostly you're down at the table and you're working on something, right? Why do I say that's surprising? Because when you do the activity, the first activity, and we're going to demonstrate in our next episode, there's no circumstance connected to it. The actor sits to do an activity in relation to nothing except the doing of the activity. And what you will see is that actor will begin to come to life in a certain way, even though there's nothing at stake. It doesn't mean anything, but the doing of it itself starts to cause a life in you.
Yeah.
Okay. So Meisner himself is not focusing on emotion there. He's not saying, hey, go up there and, try to fix a cuckoo clock and get all emotional about it. It's like, no, just go up there and fix it. You know how hard it is to fix a cuckoo clock? Or, God, Bill gave an example once, building a ship in a bottle. Do you ever see those? You go over somebody's house and there's a little model of a ship, but it's in a bottle. You go, how did it get in there? Well, you have to work really delicately in the, so you'll start to feel something just because it's difficult,
Yeah.
So you're not doing it because of some reason early on. Eventually you do. All right. So where does this lead us? It leads us to this statement. Acting is not emotion. Acting is doing. What are you doing about?
Yeah.
Right? People don't go to the theater to watch you feel something. They go to watch the character do something about how they're feeling. Right?
Absolutely.
I'm back to my friend Paul. I might have him come on as a guest so he and I can argue, because he would say First you do, and then you feel as a result of doing, right? But I sometimes say, no, first you feel, and because you feel that, you do something about it.
Interesting.
And so he and I, it could be a fun, it could be a maybe best 2 out of 3.
Just a fist fight, and then who
A
wins?
fist fight, and
Yeah.
whoever knocks the other one down, 2 out of 3,
Right.
and winner take all.
Yeah, and we'll live stream it on Instagram.
We'll live stream it, Paul, if you're listening.
That's fascinating though, because I have so many thoughts about that. I can see both sides. You know,
It's a whole discussion. Maybe we'll have him on. It's a whole discussion. He'd be a great person to talk about it. The idea, I always say, experience comes first.
right.
You experience something, and then because you feel that, you do something. But I also just told you guys that I believe that if you do something, apropos of nothing else, the act of doing it will cause experience in you. But in these other techniques, what they're saying is, and even Meisner, I think, what they're saying is that the doing of the object is causing in you an experience because it's related to a circumstance. But you don't focus on the circumstance
Yeah.
and then start doing something. If you do the thing, it'll connect you to the circumstance, right?
Yeah.
This brings us to where I want Carson to read. This is actually a quote, a long paragraph from Stanislavski, and it brings us right to what we're talking about. So Carson will also post this.
Yeah.
Like
This
he's done other quotes we've read.
Yeah. This will be on Instagram if you want to read it.
Cool.
And it goes as follows. Creativeness is first of all the complete concentration of the entire nature of the actor. An actor must have a point of attention. The more attractive the object, the more it will concentrate the attention. In real life, there are always objects that fix our attention, but conditions in the theater are different and interfere with an actor's living normally, so that an effort to fix one's attention becomes necessary. To learn anew and to look at things on the stage and to see them. Intensive observation of an object naturally arouses a desire to do something with it. To do something with it, in turn, intensifies your observation of it. This mutual interreaction establishes a stronger contact with the object of your attention. In watching the acting of great artists, their creative inspiration is always bound up with their concentration of attention. When an actor's attention is not turned towards the spectators, the actor acquires a special hold on them, forcing them to participate actively in the actor's artistic life. Creativeness on the stage, whether during the preparation of a part or during its repeated performance, demands complete concentration of all the actor's physical and inner nature, the participation of all their physical and inner faculties.
Thank you. Great. Now, does that sound like somebody who's interested in emotion? Right?
That is so layered. And
It's
there's
so layered.
so much in that.
But what a first sentence. Creativeness, which is what we talked about before, right? Inner life, the actor's inner life, the thing that gets their juices going,
Like
First of
talent.
all,
Yeah.
their talent,
Yeah.
it's the complete concentration of the entire nature of the actor. He's saying it's more important, attention on something is more important
Yeah.
than emotion or whatever, right? An actor must have a point of attention, and this is where it gets really interesting. The more attractive the object, the more it will concentrate the attention, right? What do we mean by attractive? It compels you, right? We don't mean it's good looking. What an attractive object. What a good looking. No, that's not what attractive means, It means you're drawn to it. You're attracted to it. It compels you. So he's saying, obviously, it's up to the actor to endow that object with something that compels you to address it, to handle it, to manipulate it in some way. to animate it. Right? Then this other paragraph, intensive observation of an object naturally arouses a desire to do something with it. Isn't
Mm.
that great? It makes you, and then he says to do something with it in turn intensifies your observation of it. It's cyclical.
Yeah.
And we know this from Meisner's activity. In the Meisner work, and we'll get there, you are experiencing something. And because you experience something, you have to do something about it. And then once you start doing something, the doing actually intensifies the experience you had in the first place that causes you to do the thing. So it just keeps feeding itself, feeding back on itself, right? A good activity will foster and facilitate the experience that you had in the first place that makes you do something with the object. But then the doing of it makes you feel it more, right? So it's cyclical, which means you maintain that contact to, for, and off, right? And in this case, by the way, when we say that when you do repetition, your partner is your acting object, right? In Meisner, the acting object is that thing, anything that's on the other end of the energy that you're sending out and taking in. Well, 95% of the time, your partner is your acting object. But in the case of an activity, you're sitting there at the table alone. Nobody's there. No one has knocked on your door, right? We'll come to all of that. You're alone. So what's your acting object? The thing you're handling, the cuckoo clock.
Yeah.
Or the ship in the bottle. Now, to extrapolate, though, your acting object is that thing that you're handling, but in the later stages of the technique, that object is connected to a person, maybe, who you're trying to achieve something in order to get something from that person who has meaning to you. So your acting object may be that person, right? But the thing you got your hands on is that chip in a bottle, or that that house of cards or something. It's hard to build a house of cards.
Yeah.
Man, every time I try to build a house of cards, I can't get past the first two cards. They have to touch each other, and I let go and they fall.
You know what I
Very
love
frustrating.
about this quote too is it's so simple, but I love the word desire
Oh,
because it just speaks like the primal nature of a want, um,
yes.
even a divine nature of wanting something. Like, I mean, that word is just so
Oh yeah. Oh
all
yeah.
encompassing, and it's I think sometimes with especially young actors, and I'm speaking from experience, um, and when you're young and wanting to learn everything, you're like, oh, if I do this the way it says in this book, I'll do it right and I'll be good. But it's just kind of a medicinal approach, right? And
Yeah.
and to have desire, to have faith or accrue something, that's from your soul. That's not from any textbook, and that's where you want it to come from.
You want to come from that. And that will also separate you from other actors.
Hmm.
You know, anybody can show up and do the work. Brings us back to talent a little bit. Anybody can show up and do the work. But that actor, that special actor who has that desire and that drive and that passion and seriousness of purpose. You got to be serious about this. Meisner really, what's funny is Meisner was working, I guess, around the time that movies, Hollywood started to be Hollywood, and then later television. Man, he hated when actors wanted to be famous and whatever. It's like, you want to be an actor, you want to be famous. And then Bill picked up that mantle, boy.
Mm.
Um, that great story that Stephen told us the other day.
Yeah, yeah.
Bill said to him, "Hey, Stephen, you want to watch actors do Shakespeare, or do you want to do Shakespeare yourself?" But I got to go to class every day. You can't take it like lightly. I'll show up
I'll,
sometime.
I won't say any names, but you, Kevin, have told me a bunch of actors you've worked with who are known and who have really great careers who are still in acting class.
Oh my gosh.
Like that's so inspiring to me. It's
Well, I'll name one person who I know won't mind. Midori Francis, who was my student since she was 16. Some of you may know Midori. She's done a bunch of movies. She's been had a is a great stage actor. She was in the original production of The Wolves. Those of you who know that play. She was in Usual Girls. Just she's a great actor. She was just in Bus Stop in New York, and she was on Sex Lives of College Girls
Yeah.
and Grey's Anatomy recently. She would come to visit my summer class. This is when she was an adult and a working actor. And I was teaching 15 and 16-year-olds in a summer class in July. She would come to visit, sit in the front row, and take out a notebook.
Wow.
And I would look at all the 15 and 16-year-olds in the room and I would say, "Excuse me, does everyone see this working professional actor here?" You know, Pelfrey does the same. Tom Pelfrey would come and sit in my class right in the front row and take notes.
Yeah.
So, yes, be that actor. And by the way, what about this one here? How about Stanislavski has to say in his quote, when an actor's attention is not turned towards the spectators.
Right.
It's like he had to tell actors not to court the audience. Hey, look at me up here. I'm going to play. But what he's really saying is when you don't court the audience to love you, when you put your attention on an activity or an object on the stage, it actually makes the audience lean forward because they want in on your private life up there, right? This is a concept that Carson and I go by, which we realize that we have not mentioned yet in any of our episodes. When you do Stanislavski's work, you create what he called public privacy. I have also seen it translated as public solitude.
Yeah.
Just wow. I like public privacy because solitude sounds a little too intense for me. Solitude. Public privacy. The the title of that takes care of itself, you know. You're being private.
Sure.
In public. You're being private because you're not on stage. You're in your living room, right? The set of the play is your living room, built on a stage. But the actor doesn't say, I'm on stage. They say, I'm in my living room and I'm doing something privately in my living room. There happens to be a bunch of people watching me, but the actor can't go, people are watching me. The actor goes, no, I have something to accomplish here. I put 100% of my attention on it and I'm doing it, right? Seems like today's the day that we're dropping names. We're naming a lot of people. My former colleague at Rutgers, Billy Carden, great actor, great teacher, great director, worked with Uta Hagen, very closely with Uta Hagen. And that focus is on, you have to know where you are. You have to believe in your environment. So you create the location you're in. And because you're in that location, your actor's faith will take over. Like when you're doing an exercise in that environment, and then the teacher stops you, sometimes you startle. You know, you put your hand on your heart, and you go, shit, I forgot I was being watched. I thought I was in my room or whatever. And Billy asked me once, he and I were teaching sort of congruently. I would have them on, you know, whatever, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and he would have them on Tuesday, Thursday. And he wanted us to be working, you know, together. And he said, well, what are you doing with them? And I said, you know, we're working on being, you know, simply truthful on stage. And he said to me, you can't be truthful on stage. And I was like, here we go. Because that guy, every time he said something to me, I'd be like, motherfucker, I still have stuff to learn. Like he always knew something that I didn't know. And he said, you can't be truthful on stage. And I was like, all right, let's have it. Like, what do you mean? He goes, you could be truthful in your living room, or you could be truthful in your kitchen, or
Mm.
you could be truthful on the battlefield. Like he was saying, the actor's not on stage. You don't go on stage to be truthful. You go in your living room there, or your
Right.
dining room,
Yeah.
or whatever the location of the set is. Now you can be truthful because you believe you are where you say you are.
Yeah.
And you've built that location. So it has the objects in it that are, and then you personalize those objects,
Yeah. There's this
right?
really, this is a little nutty, but again, it's not a Meisner podcast, so we allow for room for this.
Uh,
Idle. There's a great documentary. It's so fascinating for anybody, but especially for actors, called uh Chronicle of a Summer. Have you seen this, Kevin?
no.
It's a really out there French documentary from the 60s. I had to watch it in a class and I was like, oh God, here we go. And then I just fell in love with it. It's about these two documentarians uh go to these French people in like 1959, 1960, and they just interview them because their whole interest was, can people be truthful in front of a camera?
Oh,
And so they don't give you any answer. It's just up to you to think if that person's kind of being truthful or not. And some people I think were and some people weren't. But I think that's such a great point. Like you can't be truthful in front of a camera, but you can be truthful in your room when there's a camera there. You can be truthful in your room that just happens to be on a stage that you don't know
that's
about. You know,
that's
like
right.
it's kind of tricky that way.
No, that is fascinating. Well, there was the invention of, I don't think we would call it an invention, but the advent of what they called cinema verite, right? Which
Right.
was you just live your life and the camera. But people have said, some people argue that you can't possibly do it because the introduction of the camera is a
Right.
factor,
Yeah.
and immediately you have altered real life by
Yeah.
bringing a camera in. There in America anyway, there was a verite documentary called The Loud Family. They were called the Louds, which is kind of a funny name. But it was it was called the something of a family, like Chronicle of a Family. Something. Well, no, you just said Chronicle. I can't remember. But it was like an American family. It was PBS. We're gonna just follow a real family, just follow them around and watch them in their day and talk to them all. And they caught some unguarded moments, but other times it was like, they're manipulating the shit out of it because they know they're on camera, right? Which is why the actor has to sort of double down on it.
Was it An American Family
An American Family.
from the 70s?
Yeah. And it was just like, well, what would happen if we filmed people in their life? But, Carson, if you and I were in your kitchen cooking a meal and someone was there with a camera, it's going to influence us,
Of
right?
course. Well, that's the pandering to the audience that Stanislavski's talking about.
Absolutely.
That's the focus on the audience.
Yep. And so this is a great quote, and we'll put it up. I love it for a number of reasons. The main one is he doesn't say, here's the secret, go on stage and be emotional. He's saying, no, you got to get really good. Here's a way of looking at it, right? Well, Carson, how long is the average play?
2 hours, 2.5 hours, probably.
2.5 hours. Or with an intermission, let's say, or these days, an hour and a half with no intermission.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to be able to, anybody can concentrate really hard for a short amount of time. And anybody can concentrate soft for a long amount of time. The actor has to concentrate hard for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And I say also, even if you're not on stage for that entire time, like let's say you're in a scene, then you exit, and then 2 scenes go by, and then you come back in, that's even harder. And when you're on stage, you go, I'm rolling, I'm rolling, I'm rolling. I'm in the moment. But if you go off stage and then have to come back, you have to have been a little bit in the world of the play, even when you were off stage,
Yep.
in order to come back in. And, now I'm not saying you have to be backstage holding on to emotion, because you can't. It's impossible. You can't hold on to emotion. You can't hold on to circumstance. That's why Meisner's, I think, a great technique, because you can go to the lip of this, where you're going to go make your entrance, and you can daydream yourself right back into it and then go. But you still need to have a kind of concentration for the amount of time that the production is going on.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's what activities are used for. As
Yes,
there's
they
activity.
train you to be immersed in a reality,
Mm.
right? I would say to my students sometimes, again, we're getting ahead for people who don't know the Meisner technique. I promise you we'll catch up. There is a component where one partner is in the room doing an activity and the other partner is outside in the hallway, and then they approach and knock on the door, and it throws a moment to the person in the room. I would say to the student who's going out, give your partner an opportunity to fall into a reality, right? You have to fall into the reality. And
Mm.
how do you do that? By working on the activity, putting your hands on it, you get immersed in it, you fall into it, you know? And by the way, the stronger your crafting is of that activity, you feel tethered to the act. You can't not be doing it. You feel tethered to it because you've crafted the meaning of that activity, and the doing of it takes your concentration. And then let's say you get interrupted by a knock on your door. You may get interrupted, but you get pulled back to the activity, like you're tethered to it,
Yeah.
like a bungee. Like you walk away from it, it's almost like that you get pulled back like a bungee cord. You wind up back up in the air when you jump with a bungee cord, you know. So so to sort of wrap all this up, we're saying that your job is to create what we call public privacy. You're being private in public. You and I talked about this in our first episode, I think, the fourth wall.
Mm-hmm.
You go, okay, if there's a fourth wall, then I'm private because there's a wall between me and the audience, right? But I hate that idea of a fourth wall because it holds the audience at arm's length, and they may start to feel left out, which is why we do the circle of attention, which we already talked about. But when you engage in your activity, you're letting the audience kind of into your circle of attention. They get drawn in. They want to know what the hell you're doing up there. But if you do it for them, they're like, I don't need to. You're showing it all to me. What? I don't need to, you know? Okay. So let's wrap up on two things. One, this is an old, I want to say it's a Stanislavski exercise. I used to, when I taught at Rutgers, on the very first day, when the students didn't know me or anything, I would get there a half an hour before the students, and I would hide in the room 3 pins. A pin. I want everyone at home to picture a pin, like a sewing needle or a pin, a tiny little. If it was right in front of you, you might not see it, right? I would hide it. And then I would say to them, somebody get up and look for the pin. Now, notice I didn't say find the pin. I said look for it. Because if you really look for it, the result of that may be that you find it. But by the way, it may not. A pin, you might not find it. So I don't want them up there going, I'm going to find the pin. And then they just generically walk around the room, just kind of look. They don't really look,
Mm.
right? And then I'll say to them, did you find it? No, because you didn't really look. You just scanned the room and then you're like, I can't see, I don't see it. Yeah, it's a pin. So then somebody would then go to school on that, and they'd get up and start looking for the pin, and they would choose one little location in the room, like maybe a desk, maybe a dresser drawer with 4 or 5 drawers. They would take that thing apart. Meaning, if the pin were in there, they would find it.
Sure.
But they didn't find it. Why? Because it's not there. Not because they didn't look. Right? Does that make sense? So I would say to them, dude, if it were there, you would have found it. But the only reason you didn't find it is because it's not there. But also, people would get up and open a drawer, and there'd be a bunch of papers in there, and they would just kind of throw the papers around like they were looking. This happened more than once. I did hide the pin in that drawer, but I hid it all the way in the back, stuck in the corner, and they're throwing things around. I'm looking. They're not really looking. They're acting like they're looking, or they're looking in a
Performing.
general way. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
performing, looking. Then later I would say to that guy, you're going to be pissed. Because then I would go to open the drawer and reach in and pull the pen out. And they would say, but I looked in there. And I'm like, apparently not.
Yeah.
Because you didn't find the pen. All right. So what we're saying is this. You go up to look for the pin. If you choose the area where the pin is and take that area apart for real, you'll find the pin. But if you go up and look, really look, and don't find the pin, it doesn't matter that you didn't find it, you really looked. Because, as Stephen Adley Gerges said just last week, I like to write an arc for my character. They start somewhere and they go here. Then remember he said they may not get there.
Right.
They may not get there. So you go up to look for a pin. You may not find it. But did you really look? Did you really look? The reality of doing is the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to end on this. Next week, episode 8.2, we will do with activity what we did with repetition. Carson and I talked about repetition, and then Charlotte and Laura demonstrated it on camera on YouTube so everyone could see what it looks like. Today, Carson and I are talking about activity in Meisner. Next week, we will have 3 actors who will demonstrate what the early activity looks like. All right. So very briefly, I'm going to tell you the components of an early, what Meisner called the independent activity. All right. This will mean nothing to you if you have not studied Meisner, but if you're interested in it, I hope this is interesting. And then next week, you'll see it put into practice. Okay. Early on, the independent activity, it must be extremely difficult for your concentration. It has to be really difficult to do. Building a ship in a bottle, fixing a cuckoo clock, it'll take all of your concentration. You can't afford a little bit of, concentration that gets taken away from you. You need all of your concentration. It must be very, very difficult. Okay. You must have with you everything you need in order to accomplish this task. The reason that's important is because an actor will go up there and say to themselves, well, I'm just going to do this part of it. Well, wait a minute. What does it look like when it's done? And if they say to me, well, it's colored in, I go, where are your colored pencils or your paints? And they're going, well, I didn't think I'd get to that part. Then you don't believe you're really doing the thing.
Right.
You're there to complete the thing. So you better have with you everything you need to accomplish that thing because you believe, your actor's faith tells you, when I'm done, I'm done fully. Okay? Toward that, there must be an external standard of perfection. Meaning, if you're up there to build a house of cards, let's say, you're not building a house of cards. You're building this house of cards, the one in this photograph. You're not just by your own imagination and your own fun building a house of cards. You're going, no, when I'm done, it'll look exactly like this photo of this particular house of cards. So you're working toward a standard of perfection. That'll hold you to the doing. And why is that important? Because when the going gets tough, you will cheat. When the going gets tough, you'll be like, never mind, I'll build this one. No, then when you're done, it doesn't look like that picture.
Yeah.
Right? And then the other thing is you must do it thoroughly and accurately. You must do the activity thoroughly and accurately. You're not just up there kind of splashing around a little bit. You are thoroughly doing it and you're accurately doing it. And so I can't tell you how many times somebody went up there to replicate something, and I would pick up the thing they did and show the class, does this look like this? And you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be the person sitting up there with me going, yo, You think this looks like that, you'll be shamed once like that, and the rest of the time you're like, that's not gonna happen again.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So don't be the actor that goes up and thinks that they can just kind of it's like going up and shaking a hairbrush at a dog and then going, there, I groomed the dog. No, you didn't. You shook a hairbrush at the dog. You
Yeah.
didn't groom the dog, you know? Okay. So that's our episode on activity. Do you have anything to add, Carson, before we say goodbye?
No, well, yeah, actually, it's not just acting. I think it's in life too. Like,
Oh
no,
God.
what do they say I think in Breaking Bad, they say something like no half measures, you know? Like, don't do
Half
something
day.
half-assed. Just do it fully.
Or you're not doing it.
Yeah. Or it's not
You
worth
don't.
it at all. Yeah.
Well, listen, let's leave on this one. My mom once said to me, you can't be a little bit pregnant. And I was like, can't argue with that. Like, she'd be like, did you clean your room? A little bit. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You don't go up to somebody, are you pregnant? I think a little bit, yeah. I might be a little bit, a little bit.
Either are or you aren't. Yeah.
You are or you're not. And by the way, that should be your guide for any and all acting. Like when you go on, you don't say, I did a little bit of it. Because there are some things that are a little bit of a thing. There could be a little bit of a thing. You know, is there any cake left? A little bit. You can say, yeah, there's part of the original cake. But in acting, you got to go, there is no such thing as a little bit of a thing.
Yeah.
It is or it isn't. Because otherwise you'll get left up there kind of, the audience will feel something. They won't know what it is, but what they're feeling is something's unresolved.
Mm.
And that's the worst, the worst.
Yeah.
So, so we'll leave it at that. And we'll see you all next time.
Toodles.
Toodles.